What's happening, guys? It's Steeler here back again with my buddy D, and today we've got a bunch of information for you guys. Eurogamer slash Digital Foundry just released another article really going into details with one of Microsoft's head engineers, the guy that's really tried to bulletproof this console, the CPU-GPU combination. New technology in play here. A lot of good stuff to say here. I'm fucking a rapper now. And basically, guys, yes, before you really freak out and before people guess what we're going to say, before you think, we're going to say, oh, it's all Vega and it's going to destroy everything. No, that's not what we're saying. So it helps to listen because countless time and time I have to link people to things that I said in the video, that D said in the video, because they don't listen to the video. So that's what I will say, and we will get to the Vega part. It's something we're talking about, but it's not going to blow your face off. But it is, in fact, happening. It's very interesting. So really, like I said, they just released a big article on this today, and we got a lot of information. There's going to be a longer video. So for those who want to rock out and learn as much as possible, that's awesome. And those that want to still say we're fake tech guys, even though, for one, I never really claimed to be like a tech guy that people would come to. I like the shit. I talk about the shit. I tell you what I think I know from my perspective. But you'll notice that a lot of this sounds familiar because I've already theorized about most of this shit on the channel. And hey, it comes out to be pretty fucking correct. And same for D's part, So really, D, I'll let you lead on this, and I'll kind of jump in here in a second.
Well, basically, they did rehash a lot of information that we already did know, but I think it is important that they reiterate it because there's a lot of people out there trying, to tarnish, the good news or the specs of Project Scorpio. So Nick Baker, he went into how they upclocked the CPU. So he said they put it up to 2.3 gigahertz, and he said they didn't just stop there. They improved the latency on it, and a couple areas that they wanted to tackle was the cues coming back from the memory interface. So they apparently they sped that up. So they basically changed the way the cores work. So and something to do with the OS environment that they're running, so they want to optimize it for memory translation. So basically, they really beefed up the CPU here. They really tore it apart. And
I want to chime in with a direct quote. And like I said, we all know this is it's using JAG cores, right? It is basically a relative through extension of deep customization, but it is still using JAG cores. And this is the direct quote from the article from Richard Ledbetter, right? Is that his name, from Digital Foundry?
Yeah.
Says the CPU technology has been customized to the point of Microsoft doesn't refer to them as Jaguar architecture anymore. Now, like I said, that's not us saying it's not using JAG cores, but that's just going to give you an example of how much more custom it is than anything else on the market today. You cannot buy this chip. That was confirmed in today's article. The PS4 Pro and X1 CPU, it is not the same thing there. They've actually customized it. So it's still relative to those. It is derivative, as I've said before. Maybe it's derivative, but it is definitely much more advanced than any Jaguar we know of today, based off of the information in today's article. And we will link this in the source, so be sure and check out the source. I encourage everybody to read this stuff themselves in case, hey, who knows, maybe someone's misinterpreting it, right? So check it out for yourself. But they did say that exact quote in today's article. Go ahead and continue, bro. I'm going to keep looking through this.
Yeah, so and then they also went to confirm, this is the big doozy here. They went to confirm that AMD Vega architecture factored into the Scorpio's design. So basically, it has some Vega techniques, some Vega GPU elements inside of the GPU. Now, we're not going to sit here and say yes, it's complete Vega, because it's not. Even the PS4 Pro has some small elements of Vega in it, right?
Hey, be careful. Be careful. Last time I said that on a podcast, I saw someone's tweet. They're like, "This idiot just said PS4 Pro had some Vegas tech."
Well, but they did confirm
isn't
that.
it mind blowing, bro? Like, these people, they think they know about this shit and they don't look into it at all, and they think we're idiots.
A simple Google search will alleviate these problems, but I don't know. Google is your friend, people. It's not that hard.
By the way, anybody throughout this whole video, if you're one of the awesome fucking supporters we got that actually sit through the whole thing, if you got any questions, if you're like, hey, where's your source on the PS4 Pro Vega shit, right? Just ask in the comments, and I will link you. If you cannot find it, I will try to help you. But, that's the links we're willing to go to here. So Go ahead and continue, bro. Vega Tech, it is in
Yeah, and and
Scorpio.
and and and, and let's point this out that this is Digital Foundry. This is the same crew that you guys, were loving when they were saying that the Xbox multiplats look like shit, right? So let's not get this twisted here. So yeah, so they said that it does have some Vega elements, but they also said it doesn't have other elements that the PS4 Pro has. The double rate FP16 processing, right? So this I hear a lot of people saying, "Oh, it's not Scorpio doesn't have this. Oh, it's gonna bridge the gap." No, it's not. The FP16 double rate processing is more for the checkerboard rendering for them to get the fake 4K. So this helps them get a little bit more efficiency out of it. Now, Scorpio is a native 4K GPU. They don't need the trickery to get up to 4K. Yes, they did say they're going to allow some developers to do this, but they don't need it because it's a 4K native machine. So it's really a mute point.
Yeah, and they did incorporate all the checkerboarding niceties, right? They did confirm that you could simply bring over your checkerboarding game. Let's say Nio, right? If Nio had used checkerboarding, which it does not, I know I'm gonna get some idiot that still says I said it did, but I'm gonna say it does not. Um, you have to build that shit into the code, and it takes up to, I believe, 3 weeks to do so. What they said is if you just want to port that straight port over from PS4. If it needed to be that simple for you to bring it over, and then you just wanted to add shit on top of it because you have more GPU power over here, then you could do that, and that's why they incorporated it. And of course, older games from now, eventually, it'll be really, really hard to hit 4K on any game in 5, 6 years. And who knows what time? That's just an example, but then you'll be able to use those methods as well. And this is Microsoft's direct quote from the article today about Vega. According to Microsoft, some performance optimizations from the upcoming AMD Vega architecture factor into Scorpio engine's design. So the chip itself, they did implement some tech, much like PS4 Pro, as I've said before. So this is good stuff, man. It's not going to be, it's primarily Polaris. I'd say 97 to 98%. But as I've shown before, Polaris is more than capable. They did confirm you cannot compare Scorpio engine to any AMD GPU out there. It is
Yeah.
custom. It is completely custom. You cannot buy this. And you cannot compare it to an RX 480. I've tried comparing it to an RX 480, and from the results I've seen, this thing crushes my RX 480. So I'm doing 4K 30 high on a lot of games with our RX 480. I've got proof of that on the channel. This thing is much faster, even more faster than I thought it was going to be. And see, people say we used to blow the shit out of proportion, D, right? Remember that?
Yeah.
We were wrong. We were lowballing. So that's the good shit here, and for all of you guys watching on a Saturday, we appreciate it. Go ahead and finger bang that like button, show your support. And of course, once again, I've got to say D's channel will be down below. The source will be down below. We're going to keep talking about this. And go ahead and continue with your next point while I look at this stuff.
Okay, so they also went on to talk about the game DVR. Now, this part is what fucking blew my mind here. Now, they were saying that they can do full fidelity, including high bitrate game DVR recording of your 4K 60 frames per second experience. Now,
That's crazy, dude.
I want to go over this again. It says of your 4K 60 frames per second experience. So Andrew Goosen here is basically saying that we're going to have a lot of native 4K 60 frames experiences to record. So those people thinking that, oh, the CPU is not going to be able to do it, or the custom DX12 hardware chip they put inside is not going to be able to do it. I don't know. It says otherwise here. Now, they also said you're going to be able to play it back locally at full fidelity. So, it'll be complete 4K, no type of compression. And they also say you'll be able to upload it to YouTube, and it'll automatically transcode. So this was one of the sour points for me on Xbox, is that you got to go through so much shit just to upload your videos.
Yeah.
You gotta go to Upload
Well, you got to
Studio.
upload to upload, and then you've got to take that and then re-upload it to YouTube or OneDrive.
Yep. And they also said they're going to be transcoding using H.264, which of course is the best transcode that they can use right now. You get a better compression algorithm. It just handles it better, and it's of better quality, right? And they said they're also supporting HDR and SDR game DVR capture. So finally, we'll be able to capture our games with HDR and upload it to YouTube. Because I covered a video on this, I don't know, months ago, but YouTube has enabled HDR videos a long time ago on their that you can upload. So if you have an actual raw HDR video, you can upload to YouTube, and of course, it'll play back on your supported TVs like the KS 8000s, and if you have a Google Chrome Ultra. It's like a add-on to the TV. You can play it in HDR as well. The fact that the console is going to be doing that, a lot of content creators are going to be getting this console for the 4K 60 frames per second and for the HDR recording, something that the PS4 Pro still can't do right now. It can't capture HDR
They
gameplay.
did try to compare this thing to other devices that do 4K 60 HDR. I don't think any other device does HDR while doing 4K 60, correct?
Well, I think the PC can do 4K 60 frames per
I'm
second
talking
on
about like a
HDR.
standalone device,
Oh
like a
no.
capture card.
Oh no.
Yeah.
There is a capture card. I think there is one. It's really expensive. I think it's really expensive. There is
Like
one.
$300 or some shit. Yeah,
Yeah.
200 or $300.
Yeah.
They continued to go on to resolution and imply that games that are 900 or 1080p could quite easily scale up to 4K with 4K ultra textures, with a bit of work on the 900p side, but 1080p almost no work, as we saw with Forza 6. That's awesome. They did say that games that were 720p, and this is why I was so kind of confused about Battlefront, because that ran at 720p, could checkerboard up to 4K. Now, like I said, they never said all games would be 4K. We didn't expect this much from them. I mean, go
No.
back 8 months and watch videos. We didn't expect this much from them. So I
No.
think they're more than delivering. They did say 720p games could checkerboard up to 4K. And who knows if Windows Central might have been off a little bit there. I'm not sure. Maybe their source didn't know it was checkerboard 4K on Battlefront 2. Or maybe they found a magic crack rock and shoved it inside the console and said, yeah, okay, this can do everything 4K. But, it's kind of weird that they're doing 720p on the first one and then it can magically hit 4K. That's why I said in the video, expect 1440p. Who knows? I'm not saying they can't do 4K, but that's a lot of frames they need to come up with. Either way, 1440p is much higher than any resolution you've ever seen on Xbox before. You're going to be blown the fuck away.
But they did also go on to say that of course some games are going to have to optimize to get it up, but they did say there's going to be a lot of 900p games that are going to run native 4K day one on Scorpio, and they pretty much were confirming that a lot of 1080p titles aren't going to have that issue at all. They're going to be a lot easier just to put to 4K.
I wouldn't imagine any 1080p title would have that issue from what I saw. None. I mean, I don't see why.
And I have to say, this makes Xbox such an appealing platform. So not only do we have all these backwards compatible titles like Black Ops and all these things that people wanted, those titles, they're gonna play better on Scorpio without the developer having to do anything. They're gonna have better frame rate, they're gonna have better aliasing, they're gonna have better texture filtering right off the bat, which is excellent. Now the Xbox One games, your current Xbox One games, so say like Forza Horizon 3. You're going to stick Forza Horizon 3 into Project Scorpio. I'm going to go ahead and say they're going to definitely patch this one up to 4K. So you're going to get that game at 4K, and then you're going to get it with PC Ultra textures. So it's going to be almost like getting a new game. That's great value off of your old catalog onto Scorpio, which is another reason to get this console.
More importantly, they have the headroom on that game, as we've shown on the lower power GPUs, to do that game at ultra settings, 4K. I was doing over 30, but I don't think they'll be able to hit 60 without some kind of monster CPU in that game, because that game's just not optimized on the CPU side very well.
I run that game in like Crossfire with like tremendous amount of power.
So just expect 4K 30 ultra settings, 4K textures. That's what I would say. Microsoft did mandate on Scorpio that all games run at the same or higher frame rates. So that's good. Just like PS4 Pro, right? Except for I'm hoping they stick with that, right?
Yeah, but however, they did address that. So they said that they used the Pix tool, and they went over Xbox One games, of course we know, to identify the bottlenecks, but also they did this to make sure that they would be compatible with Scorpio and that they would run with no problems, and they're not having any issues. Now that's a problem that the PS4 Pro suffers with. Some of their games, yes, they run at a higher resolution, but then you're getting like shitty frame rates. You're getting like 24, 23, 27 frames per second. Some of these games are not holding a steady 30 frames per second, and it's kind of unacceptable. It's a superior system. So if you can't do a higher resolution with greater or at least the same frame rate, what's the point? And them using the Pix tool and analyzing everything, all these game engines on the Xbox One is eliminating that. So I'm quite confident that the games on Project Scorpio, they're not going to have the same frame rate issues that the PS4 Pro titles
I don't know.
suffer
I
from.
think a lot of the pro frame rate issues are being overblown, you know. To be honest, I mean, yeah, there were definitely some launch games that had launch patches and stuff, but generally the performance is about the same, right? It depends. I mean, it should be better, but it's also rendering at a much higher resolution. So there's just more to that. I wouldn't say that the frame rates are really bad because they're not. But I wanted to say they also, when they were talking about backwards compatibility, and eliminating over 60 different bottlenecks in the silicon. So they designed the chip, the silicon, and they identified bottlenecks in current Xbox One games through different hardware emulation. And when building the actual custom chip, like I said, you can't get this anywhere. They eliminated over 60 of those pipeline issues, of the queuing issues, of the bandwidth speed issues in the GPU, and this allowed them to get a far more efficient chip. They even went back and bulletproofed it for full backwards compatibility 360 games. Like I said, man, this has never been done before. This is once again, they say it's so custom they don't call it Jaguar. That's straight from Microsoft. So if you did miss some of the stuff, obviously you can go back and watch the beginning of the video. A lot of good stuff there too. What was the next topic we were going to cover here? The GPU command processor. They did touch on that. They enhanced and improved the speed of the GPU command processor in the Scorpio as opposed to the Xbox One. So it's got a better, more beefed up, faster GPU command processor than the Xbox One does. Then they've coupled that with the DX12 hardware baked in integration, right? So 50% boost on DX12 games. That's awesome. I mean, that's going to help a lot of different games get to where they need to be, man. What do you think about this stuff?
It's excellent. And like I saw some people, reporting, oh, this was already in the Xbox One. So I want to clarify the people. There was a version of it. It was not the same chip. It's not nearly as efficient. And it was in the CPU. This one, they've moved into the GPU. It's completely different. And Microsoft this week in a different article, the Gamma Sutra article, confirmed that this is the first time that they've done this. Period.
Yeah.
So it hasn't existed before. So and then this is what's going to help us.
Well, that's why, before you move on too far, that's why it says they enhanced and improved the speed of the GPU command processor. I mean, they didn't. What did they enhance and improve it over? Huh? The base
Exactly.
Xbox One. So obviously that thing was built and designed in 2013. They've held to those restrictions all the way up into the S. This is a completely new GPU command processor, like he said, integrated into the GPU with DX12 hardware. This is different, right? So this isn't like strictly software, like people were claiming the X12 was going to give you another 30 frames, right? On my channel, I was like, no, don't expect that shit. You might get 3 frames depending on where you're at, right? So it's a lot different than the previous DX12 bullshit that was going around.
This is actual hardware implementation, and this is how they are confident that we're going to have 4K 60 frames per second experiences. Now, the CPU is what feeds your GPU. The draw calls is what sends all the commands, and then the GPU produces it. Now, the CPU being a Jaguar, it's a very heavily customized Jaguar, but to eliminate the bottlenecks, that's why they implemented this hardware chip in it. And we're going to be getting 4K 60 frames per second experiences on a fucking console in 4K. Like, I'll just tell you, like, it blows my mind. It really truly does. I never thought I would see a console doing this, because it's hard for a PC to hit 4K 60 frames per second. And
Hang on before you go too far. You got to remember, motherfuckers that look like badgers might download this shit in 2 years. So we got to say that we're not saying every game will be 4K 60 frames. Okay,
no.
that will be a thing, like Forza has proven. But on average, expect AAA games to be 4K 30 high or ultra with 4K textures. It is more than possible. I've tested this with a weaker GPU, and the CPU is much less of a factor at 30 frames. That's why on PS4 Pro you got Dark Souls running at 45 to 55 frames. Right, that's just a fact. It's not a 60 frames lock because of the CPU. It's not fast enough to get those draw calls out quick enough. At 30 frames, the CPU doesn't have to work that hard as opposed to 60. It's got to work twice as hard. So at 30 frames, the CPU is much less of an issue. That's mainly down to alpha effects and particles, things like that. So that's what I'm saying. 4K 30 high / ultra with 4K textures on games that do have that. Microsoft have confirmed you can just port those straight over from PC. And obviously, as we've seen, you'll get 60 frames on games like Forza, and who knows what else. Maybe they'll surprise us. Call of Duty, that'll be 4K 60
Yeah,
market. I mean, Infinite Warfare was 1800p, which is 75% of 4K on the Pro at 60.
yeah.
So this will be able to do 4K 60 because, as you know, when you're pushing out these pixels, that's all GPU related. The CPU, you know what I'm saying? So the GPU is more than beefy enough to get that resolution out
Definitely.
there with those extra
And,
effects.
and this is the part where it makes the inclusion of HDMI 2.1 genius. Now, if say a certain game, I don't know what games, but like say a certain game can't hold a steady 60 frames per second, but say they can get up to 40, 45 frames per second. They can use the technology behind HDMI 2.10, which is the FreeSync 2, and they can lock it at the 45 frames per second, and it's going to be silky smooth. You're going to have very low latency. You're going to have very low input on your actions on the screen, and it's just going to run smooth without any hitches. And that's an advantage too. And
Yeah.
that's something that the PS4 Pro can't do.
And don't expect any of those TVs to be on the market for like a year and a half, maybe two, right?
Yeah, I want to
Because right
clarify.
now they can do it through a monitor, but it's got to be through DVI, and the Scorpio doesn't have a DVI port. So you're gonna have to wait for HDMI 2.1 monitor or an HDMI 2.1 TV to come out, and it'll be a little bit, right? But it is
Yeah,
future proof.
I'm going to be doing, I'm probably going to do touch a video on that next week. However, I'm just going to touch a little bit on it now. There are TVs on the market that will support that. So like if you bought a like even your TV dealer will support it. So if you bought a 2016 say for instance Samsung TV that has HDMI 2.0 HTCP 2.2, your TV will actually get an update. I believe it's in the second quarter of this year to support HDMI 2.1. Now it's going to depend on the manufacturer, so we got to find out, who's going to actually update their TVs, who's going to be greedy and just want to release another TV. But it is possible to get some of these features on HDMI 2.0, so you'll be able to get the variable game rates for the FreeSync 2. You'll be able to get that on the HDMI 2.0 and some other features. And now I'm hearing on the bandwidth issue because it does increase the bandwidth. I'm hearing that a new cable will be needed for it, but I am hearing that cable will be able to be used on HDMI 2.0. Now, this information I'm getting this information from the HDMI forums. Now, these are the guys that own all the patents for HDMI, and they're the ones saying that yes, you can update some HDMI 2.0 televisions up to HDMI 2.1. There is an update path for it. And it's been confirmed. We went over this over on the AVS forums. For
So
those of you that don't
basically,
know,
hey, if you got a TV that'll support an update, awesome, right? And hey, apparently mine does. That's why
yeah,
I talk to D, especially about all the TV stuff. The guy, I don't know, lives and breathes technology and stuff too. So, yeah, but mainstream TVs, you'll probably see new models next year, probably. If you're
yeah,
looking
yeah,
to, if you got an old ass TV, it's not going to support it.
no,
Maybe probably next year you might get actual native support if you buy a brand new TV with this thing, and they'll advertise it. I'm sure they will. But yeah, FreeSync basically much smoother, no screen tearing. The GPU dictates when the screen refreshes, not the screen. So it's all good across the board. Much better experience. 40 frames could be a lot smoother on a FreeSync TV than it is on today's TV, right? It'll look a
definitely.
lot smoother. And they did confirm that the CPU is not just basically it's not just X amount percent faster than the old one. It's more than that. In efficiency. So let's say 9% over the Pro, right? That's the clock speed. That's just how fast the clock speed. That's just the speed of the clock. But per cycle, they're getting more than 9% boost over that CPU. You get what I'm saying? Is that
Definitely. And a lot of people, you can't just take the hard numbers and say, okay, it's just 21% better than PS4 Pro in this way. You've got to put everything, the CPU, yes, it's a certain percentage faster, but it also has a lot more has a lot lower latency. It's got more cache, they can do instructions differently on it. So it's different in that sense. The system has a higher bandwidth, over the
well,
PS4
they
Pro.
confirmed the bitch is so custom they don't even call it Jaguar anymore. Like
There
with
you
the
go.
Pro, it's the same exact CPU, just clocked higher. That's a fact. Mark Cerny confirmed that same
Yeah.
thing clocked higher. This is a bit more custom. We're not saying they're fucking light years apart, right? But this is more than 9% more efficient
Yeah,
than the Pro CPU.
you're definitely going to see a difference, right? Like for starters, like the PS4 Pro, yeah, the odd game it can get up to a native 4K, but you're not getting PC ultra graphics. You're getting a mixture of high and medium settings. Now
Yeah.
with Scorpio, when it's going to be running at a native 4K resolution, but with PC Ultra texture, so all those assets are loaded in, and then you have better ambient occlusion. You got different features that are just not available on the PS4 version. Now I have a PS4 Pro and I like it. I'm not going to sit there and like dog it out completely because I do like it. But the one thing I do notice is that some games, the only difference that I'm noticing is that it's a little bit cleaner image quality,
Mhm.
like it's a higher resolution, but the features, it looks kind of the same. It doesn't
You
look
can
that much
tell
different.
they were definitely limited on RAM. This is well documented. There's a reason the developers were asking for more RAM before it came out, right? Um, the games can look great, but when you have more RAM, you can actually make your whole world extremely detailed and sharp with high resolution textures, not just the guy's beard that you're looking at in the cutscene, for instance, right?
Yeah.
They can really fill out the rest of the world with all that 4K detail because if you don't have high resolution textures at a high resolution, that world looks washed out. It looks, I don't know, it reminds me of bad texture filtering, actually, which might actually be a byproduct of low RAM anyway. But still, I know some people are now worried, well, this thing must cost a whole lot, right? Well, they reiterated
Mhm.
today that bang for the buck remains the crucial factor in the makeup of the hardware. So they did what they could. They took some of what they had and customized it to the max and doubled down on things they knew to get quite a bit more out of this thing. So I know you're still going to have doubters. You're still going to have people that say that these two platforms are close in performance when they're not. As a matter of fact, if you just look at raw
No, they're not.
compute 4.2 versus 6.0, these two, anyone who knows anything about PC knows these two aren't even close. That's the difference between something. If we were going to compare it to NVIDIA side, right? We're just going to compare it to the NVIDIA side, but it's going to be architecture to architecture. So that's the difference between something that's lower than a GTX 1060 on the PC side, and we're not saying it's identical because it's AMD hardware, but just so people on the PC understand a bit better, which they already fucking know. Some of them are just trolls. I don't know why. The difference between something that's right below a GTX 1060 and something that's right around a 1070, and that's just from raw compute. That is the math. That math is done. You cannot change that.
No.
That's anywhere from 25 to 30 frames, maybe more, depending on the bandwidth and CPU usage. Um,
And that and,
yeah,
that, and that's that,
I mean,
that's a major thing. I'm sorry, not to cut you off. That's like a major thing too. Is that the RX 480? It's using a much lower bit bus, and it's got a lot lower memory bandwidth. Now, if we go by PC metrics, the RX 480 at launch, it was under the 1060. Since they've optimized all these different drivers, and you got the new Relive drivers and the new Crimson drivers, it's running efficiently. And for most parts, the RX 40 is on par or it beats the 1060. Now you got the Project
yeah,
Scorpio
and
GPU.
you got to remind people too. If you want to link to that bench, there's newer benchmarks with newer drivers out for those two cards. AMD cards on RX 480 were garbage when it launched. It was
Yeah,
right around a 970 somehow. In the last update, I think I got an 8% boost to performance alone. So yeah, if you're looking at day one benchmarks, if you're just Googling it, like some clueless guys out there that say they know a lot about this stuff because they've been building their own chip for 4 or 5 years, and then they go Google this stuff, they don't have a clue. So if you want the updated video, I can link that in the description. GTX 1060 versus RX 480 and the sweep of games with newer drivers. They go back and forth on some games. The RX 480 takes it on all DX12 titles.
yeah.
This thing has come quite a ways.
Now factor in that Project Scorpio has a higher bandwidth, a higher memory bit bus. Factor in that it has a higher GPU usage. Higher in that it has more CUs on it. You kind of get a relative idea of what Project Scorpio's performance is going to be. And it's going to be amazing. It's going to be
And when they were talking about the CPU, because as we covered at the beginning, Microsoft says it's too custom to be called a Jaguar. And if you want to know about that, you can go back and check in the beginning of the video. But when he was talking about that, he said, in dealing with a full custom CPU design, you can't just supersize things, right? because you run into complications. So they had to go in every aspect of this thing. They had to custom tune and tweak. And once again, going back and redoing everything and getting rid of these bottlenecks, it's pretty awesome. I think it was very smart because they took what was there. They've already bought millions of what is the core, right? A Jag core. And they've completely reworked and customized it to the point where it's a lot more efficient.
Yeah. And just the fact that Microsoft said, what we built here, we built it custom with AMD, and you can't get this shit anywhere. The fact that they said that the DX12 hardware chip is the first that they've done something like that, trust me, this system is going to deliver. Like, I'll tell you, Xbox, like, let's be honest here, so far this generation, we've kind of got mopped up with Sony. Sony's just been kicking dirt in our face. You know,
Oh, yeah, Sony's done a great job this generation.
Yeah.
Well, at least right now, anyway, of trying to get some deals out.
They were quite underpowered, you know, and then you know, the Xbox One S came and alleviated some of the things, but it was still underpowered in comparison. But then you had the PS4 Pro that came out, and they're like, oh my God, you know, we're stuck here with this Xbox that's underperforming the PS4, underperforming towards the PS4 Pro. But now finally we have our Xbox Scorpio, and it's going to be the best place to do multiplayer. I had somebody leave in my comment section, one of my videos. The guy was saying, oh, well, developers are still going to make games at 30 frames per second. It's not going to change anything. No, listen, Project Scorpio is going to be where all the multi-platform games are developed for. It's going to be the platform of choice, and it's going to go back to the last generation where Sony was stuck to getting Xbox ports, and that's what's going to happen. They're going to want to develop their games on Scorpio, and then they're going to port it to everything else. It's not going to make sense to do it any other way.
Anyway, because they haven't even been doing that so far this generation. They haven't been just porting PS4 games to X1 because it's easier to go the other way around. It's easier to start low and then scale up. That's a fact. So that's bullshit. Secondly, Xbox One has ESRAM. They have to code for that. Different things inside the console that dictate that they can't just port one straight to the other. Now, of course, there's assets and things they can port back and forth, but none of that matters because they've already confirmed that Scorpio versions of games are getting patches with PC assets anyway.
Yeah.
And if you looked at the new dev kit, they've got buttons on the front of that thing where you can switch instantly from the original Xbox One to the S to the Scorpio right there.
And 4K assets make the world of difference because you're getting a lot sharper textures instead of like these 1080p textures. You're getting the proper 4K textures to go with the resolution of the game. So
we've got like 300 something people watching, guys. Appreciate it. Random shit on Saturday. Go ahead and finger bang that like button. You guys are awesome. I'm going to read this quote one more time from today's article with Digital Foundry about the CPU. And of course, if you want to know our thoughts and all this shit, go back to the beginning of the video and check that out. The CPU tech has been customized to the point to where Microsoft doesn't refer to them as Jaguar architecture anymore. That is straight from Digital Foundry. And like I said, our complete thoughts on that at the beginning. That's really interesting because once again, this isn't just some shit they bought from AMD. This is a lot of it's custom. So a lot of good stuff here, man. Do you want to cover anything else here?
No, I think it's pretty much it. I implore everyone to actually go to the article that you'll link down below and actually read it. It's a very good read, and it's in detail. And for you guys out there, you console warriors out there, when people are saying, "Oh, it's not going to do this, it's not going to do that," it's a good reference point to prove people otherwise.
Yeah, and once again, I mean, we're willing to link if you got questions about anything. If you can't find it on Google. And you need help finding it, I will link you this shit in the comments. So if you got a question, where do you get this source, where did this come from, let me know down in the comments when this video renders, when it gets to the channel, when it uploads. That's when I reply to comments because the chat flies by so quick we can't keep up anyway in the live shit. So come back and check that out. Check out the beginning of the video for the Vega stuff. I know a lot of you guys are here for the AMD Vega tech inside the console. Be sure and check out the video when it re-uploads. And D just did a video about this earlier. Go to his channel and check that out. I will link his channel down below. And, of course, the source and all that stuff will be down below, as it always is. And, really, I just want to say, man, people out there, that when you hear somebody say something like, hey, it may use Vega Tech because PS4 Pros uses Vega Tech, and then you make fun of them on Twitter because you're clueless and because you're dumb.
Yeah.
you might want to just do a fucking Google search, okay?
Yeah.
So once again, guys, you guys are awesome. Thanks for watching. We've got a super supportive group of people here, D. They really like the shows we do. And, it's kind of a news blowjob type thing, but it is what it is, guys. Let us know what you think down below. Be sure to hit that like button, subscribe for new stuff. And once again, everything will be linked down below. We're out.